Well, yeah, Drive the World's definitely over. We're back to rainy days, dark afternoons, and having to use external light sources to talk to GoPros. Oh, I miss the old sunny days in Florida. Hello one and all, welcome to Seeing Through Glass. Yes, Drive the World is finito. I've just picked up my 911 Carrera T from the car's warehouse, where over a year ago I dropped it off to send it to Australia ready for the start of this crazy 12-month adventure. It kind of makes me a bit sad to be like, well, that's it, it's done, because it feels like it's passed by in the blink of an eye. I've hardly had a moment to kind of realise what I'm doing, where I've been, and the sights and sounds and people that I've met. It's just been so overwhelming, and one thing that's been massively overwhelming is the support from you all. I just want to get that done at the beginning of this video. Is the biggest thank you that I could ever even attempt to do, because I couldn't have done this trip without your support. Not only those of you who were generous enough, kind enough to get behind the Kickstarter, but those of you that sent me an email, sent me an Instagram DM, a Facebook message, or a YouTube comment suggesting something to do or to film, because pretty much all of the content that you may have seen this year has been as a direct result of a viewer. Someone saying, oh, my uncle's got a cool car, or I know a cool dealership around the corner, or go check out this restaurant. It's all been because of you, because I've been going to so many places that I've never been before, or places I have been before, but wanting to film in a different way. So yes, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really hope I didn't let any of you down. That was my biggest concern throughout the year, was letting people down, because not only did I set myself up for this kind of, epic, so I just have to keep saying the word adventure, it's going to be used a lot in this video, adventure, but I also sort of, committed myself to delivering epic content for you guys, and I do feel like I did that when I look back on some of the opportunities, like driving a Ferrari Enzo in Japan, or thrashing a 918 Spyder in New Zealand, to even driving a Bugatti Chiron Sport in Florida. I'm like, yes, I feel like I've achieved, but I've only truly achieved if you guys agree. So look, give the video a thumbs up if you have enjoyed Drive the World, whether you've watched 3 videos, 20 videos, or every single video, it doesn't matter. If you have enjoyed elements, I would love to hear, because it means the world to me. But thank you once again for your support. I also have to thank all of my sponsors, and I will come back to that a little bit later. But this is my final video of the year, and actually it's going to be kind of my final video for a little bit of time. I'll get into that at the end of the video as well, but for now I want to kind of reminisce, and let's go back to the start, because as I mentioned, I collected this 911 Carrera T in kind of October, I think it was October time last year, with the thanks of course Magnitude Finance and First Point Insurance, that went straight off to Yanamize to be transformed into the car that hopefully all of you now recognise and theoretically love, and then got straight onto a boat thanks to Cars and shipped to Brisbane. The first time I really drove this car was on the other side of the world in Australia, which was just a nuts experience, but it was the perfect place to start the year, because Australia, not only the other side of the world, but a perfect place to drive. If you get there, try and rent a car and do a bit of a road trip, because it's empty. I mean, that's the most amazing thing about Australia, is it is largely empty, but full of the most amazing wildlife and scenery and history in parts too. I just loved it, and the car culture there is nuts. I did my first ever meet and greets. To be fair, they were events organised and hosted by sort of local people, but I was invited as a sort of guest, I suppose, and some of them were insane. The Melbourne event, there was over 1,000 people there. It was just like, what do I do? I'm so uncomfortable in those situations, but it was nuts to meet so many people passionate about cars and passionate about watching car videos on YouTube. So huge thanks to everyone in Australia for really starting things off on such a positive note, because some of the opportunities I had, but also, as I say, some of the conversations I had were just really encouraging and motivating. Anyway, at the end of Australia, we'd done about 9 or 10,000 miles in the car, and I had to get back on a boat and go all the way back to Europe, because it just takes so long, about 2.5 months by boat to travel from Perth back to the UK. So I waved goodbye to it, and that began the kind of fly-away leg of the trip. We went down to New Zealand, which I am going to just say it relatively quickly, I think might have been my favourite country of the entire year. maybe my expectations were quite low. Maybe it's because I drove a 918 Spyder and a 911R back to back on one of the most amazing roads ever. I don't know. But yeah, it just took my breath away. And I think of all the sort of countries that I would love to rush back to, New Zealand is kind of the top of the list. Also, I have to mention the Leadfoot Festival, which is kind of like their Goodwood Festival of Speed. Oh my God, that was an amazing event. So yes, New Zealand absolutely smashed it. I loved every second there, but the standout memory, the highlight, was that day with a 918 Spyder and a 911R. If you haven't seen that video, please go and check it out, because it didn't get as many views as some of the videos that I produced later in the year, and I feel like people kind of maybe missed it or something like that. I don't know, but I loved every second, and unbelievable. Then moved on into Asia, which I'm going to kind of admit I struggled with a bit. I think language barriers, maybe I don't have as big an audience over in Asia, and also just the jet lag from traveling between different countries with different time zones. Whilst I had a huge amount of fun from a personal point of view, I feel like maybe I didn't make all the content I wanted to. That was made up by Hong Kong, absolutely unbelievable. Got to thank my good friend Phil for kind of linking me in with a lot of different car collectors and car owners there. I had the chance to make some really cool content. Of course, standout there was probably the Zonda Phantasma Evo. Spending a morning with that, a very foggy, cloudy morning with that, learning the story of how it was created, and then sitting in the passenger seat as we kind of blasted through the hills around Hong Kong. Pretty damn special. But the standout for me in the whole Asian leg, Japan. I think at the beginning of the year, if you'd said, where are you most excited about visiting, it was Japan. I've been wanting to go there all my life, and it did not let me down. Whilst I struggled a little bit to kind of get into the underground JDM kind of modified scene that I was hoping to film, I still had an insane week, and it actually ended up being a Ferrari week, which you all know I'm never going to complain about. Ferrari themselves lent me a Portofino for a few days. I drove an Enzo, as I mentioned earlier. Just had an absolutely wicked time. But as a country, it's unbelievable, and I feel like I've only explored just a little tiny bit of it, and I want to get back there. I want to try and get into that underground scene, try and film and access it more, because I just, that's the bit that I think is really fascinating about Japanese car culture. So Japan, I will be back. Of course, before we returned to Europe, also did India and Cape Town. Cape Town I'm such a huge fan of, my third time there now. I love it. I think it's a great city. Lots of amazing driving roads, lots of amazing car people. Of course, great to spend some more time in an Aston Martin. Jumped into a DB11 for the majority of my week. But it was great to meet up with the man, the myth, the legend, Frisco 911. Of course, lots of you will know my car, this 911 Carrera T, was kind of an homage to his car, which was an original 70s 911 T. The whole look of it, most elements were taken kind of inspiration or homage to his. We actually managed to get the two cars together in Melbourne. He'd left it there after doing his own little Australian tour, but we met up as people in Cape Town, and it was just, he's a fascinating guy, and it was great to chat and obviously celebrate the fact we had these two cars from very different eras, very different generations, but both kind of doing their own round the world trips. But yes, before I knew it, we were back in Europe. Some 4 months later, we got back to the UK for a couple of days just to sort of repack bags and kind of reassess where we were at in life. My Carrera T was still on a boat, still trying to get back from Australia. So Porsche came to the rescue, and yes, it has been a year of Porsche. This brand that I did always appreciate, but maybe had kind of, slightly put aside for the love of Ferrari, really found a place in my soul this year. And they were amazing in Europe because they lent me a 911 Turbo S. I mean, what a thing to explore. France, Spain, Portugal, some of the islands, Ibiza, Mallorca, and then eventually get over to Monaco in. And as you know, because we swapped it for the new 992 Carrera S before we got to Monaco. That was nuts, because at the time, hardly anyone had driven that car. And, the thing is, I actually am not sure I loved it that much. It felt a bit too soft for me. I actually prefer this 991 shape, but maybe I'm biased because I'm in it so much. But yeah, it was a brilliant way to start Europe, and the biggest takeaway I have from the kind of European leg was finally I had the chance to explore parts of Europe that I haven't really done before on Seen Through Glass. Portugal, absolutely amazing. Mallorca, as I mentioned, but it was kind of post Monaco, once I'd got this car back, delivered by cars so amazingly into Monaco, I was then able to go further and end up exploring places like Bulgaria, even in the northeast, parts of Poland and Latvia and up into Estonia. Those places really stand out to me as being beautiful, historic places that maybe don't have the biggest car culture, but just amazing places to visit. And I want to get back to and find more of the car culture. But Europe was big. We were there for about 4 months, covered around about 10 or 11,000 miles whilst we were there. And that's where we made up a lot of our countries. I can't remember in total, but we did something like 18 or 19 countries in Europe, and it was an awesome time. And what was great was the countries that I have spent a lot of time in before, Italy, Switzerland, France, etc., really stepped up their game. Let's not forget, I collected a 488 Pista Spyder from the Ferrari factory. I also collected an Aventador S Roadster from the Lamborghini factory. I mean, these are just pinch myself moments. I can't quite get over it. So Europe in general, I feel like they did what they needed to do, and my Scandinavian adventure was kind of the tail end of that European leg and really gave me a chance to do a bit more exploring, because after Australia or post-Australia, I feel like we hadn't really got out there and got into the wild again, and that's what Scandinavia allowed me to do. Finland, Sweden and Norway, going right up into the Arctic Circle. But during the summer months, there wasn't a lot of snow. It was just awesome because it's idyllic, it's silent, it's idyllic, it's largely empty, but it is beautiful. And I think Norway in general, some of the most amazing scenery I witnessed all year, and it was just a chance to explore this car, live with this car and take it to some extreme places. But then it was time for the UK leg, which again, a bit like Italy, France, Switzerland, really stepped it up, because I was a bit nervous at that point. I was like, I've been away for 6 months exploring the world, making what I felt like was amazing content. I was like, how's the UK ever going to live up to this? But they did, because Jaguar pulled through and lent me a Project 8, an XE Project 8 for the week. And that is a car that is shot right to the top of my I want list. Unfortunately, at the moment, they're still outrageously expensive, but one day I need a Project 8. I actually think more than I want a Project 7. I just fell in love with the thing. But it was also just a chance to get out and explore parts of the UK. Got my hands on another 488 Pista thanks to Ferrari, helping me celebrate my 30th birthday in style. Met up with Lenny the Geezer, took a 360 out for a hoon. And this car got a sort of new lease of life, because whilst the team at Yanamaise had done a fantastic job transforming it into the car that you will recognise, I wanted to sort of take that wrap to another level, and obviously got the Topaz skin product applied. They colour matched that brilliant colour that Yanamaise kind of created to end up with what looked like a factory paint finish, ready for America. Now, America was the kind of behemoth, this kind of this big rock in the middle of, or towards the end of DriveTheWorld, that I was like, wow, how are we going to tackle this? I must have redrawn the route across North America a million times. I was just so overwhelmed by it. And in the end, it took so long to get across, and there was so much to do. It's kind of one of the big reasons that we actually ended up not making it to South America, because we just kind of ended up going over with our sort of time allowance and being able to get this car back before Christmas. Because that's the big thing, I had to finish this year with this car. I couldn't just be like, oh yeah, well, DriveTheWorld's over and my 911's floating in the ocean somewhere. So to make it all happen, we did have to cut out South America, because the US and Canada were just so insane. And it had to kind of start on the West Coast for me, because firstly, I had to do Car Week. If you don't know, the whole sort of idea for DriveTheWorld came to me at Car Week in 2017. So I had to make sure that it was included in this year's plans. But obviously before that, I spent a week in LA kind of doing hypercar madness with Shmee 150 and Salamandrin and the likes. Also Buddy Wirrick just taking me for an absolutely awesome day and ending up checking out my first ever Ferrari Sergio. Oh, that car I fell in love with. Also, finally meeting up with Magnus Walker, my year of Porsche sort of content and loving. It had to happen. It was only right that I went to visit the man, the myth, the legend that was Magnus Walker. But America, I struggled to summarize, because every single state provided me with an amazing opportunity for filming, but for access, for cars, for people. The Stradman, what an absolute hero. I mean, we last filmed together 4 years ago. To meet up with him again, to hear his story, to see his car collection, which has grown even further since I left. But of course, we cannot forget the insane cars that I came across in Kansas, and was able to not only drive a 917 Porsche replica Le Mans car to dinner, but also back-to-back comparisons between a 60s and a 2018 Ford GT. That continued throughout the year. Had my first experience in a Nissan GTR, an R34 Skyline up in Canada. Spent the day with an F50. As I already mentioned, drove a Chiron Sport. It just goes on. I have to sit down and remind myself of all the things I did because I forget. This year has just been so ridiculous. And so yes, I do want to thank all the sponsors that were involved. Of course, throughout the year we've had Magnitude Finance, my fantastic financing company, who got me into this 911 Carrera team. They had to work some magic to convince the lender to let me not only finance the car but then take it straight out of the country. So bravo to them. First Point Insurance handling all of my car insurance in Europe, but also health insurance, business insurance, liability insurance. They've just been fantastic. We've also had Curve, if you don't know about Curve, the absolutely perfect travel card. You can load all your Visas and MasterCards onto one. It's meant I've had to travel with a very slim wallet this year, but managing of expenses has been fantastic via their app. I can photograph receipts, upload it straight away. They've been absolutely perfect. Pirelli obviously came on board midway through the year as the official tyre partner and got me some incredible access at the Austin F1 Grand Prix, that hot laps experience with Esteban Ocon. Oh, unbelievable. G-Technic have looked after this car beautifully throughout the year, doing some fantastic details. In Venice, the car kind of got a rebirth, like a midlife rebirth. They did some amazing work there, putting on their different coatings, ceramic coatings and things like that to make the car protected but also look fantastic. I've mentioned cars already, have helped get this car around the world. Holzer, if you don't know about Holzer, an app where you can find out about sort of local different car events happening near you, whether it's just meetups or Formula One Grand Prix or whatever it might be. Did a few different events with them back at the start of the year, but it's been great having them on board as well. So I have to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart. I did mention this is the last video of the year, but the last video for some time because I need some time off. This year has killed me. It's been brilliant, but my creative levels are a little bit drained. My body energy is a little bit drained, and I just need to step away for a bit and let myself recuperate, let the channel breathe for a little bit of time. So I'm going to take about a month off from social media over Christmas. I'll be back towards the end of January. Everything's going to go quiet for now. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. It's all going to go a little bit silent, but hopefully you've got a year's worth of content to go back and enjoy. I've done some summary posts on Instagram this week looking at some of my favourite photos, but of course there is the Drive the World playlist where if you miss any videos, maybe you don't even realise you miss videos, go back through, have a look, rewatch some of your favourite moments. I've been doing it, reminding myself of some of the insane stuff we have done. But of course, as I say, there is a chance that you didn't see things. But all in all, I just want to say thank you. I want to wish you all Merry Christmas if you are celebrating Christmas. But if you're getting time off work, whatever you're doing, have a great few weeks. And I will be back. 2020, we got to go big, right? A lot of you have been asking, how do I follow up Drive the World? Well, for the last couple of months, I've been putting those plans in actions, and things are looking pretty exciting. And we are kick-starting in style in January. My first few videos back, I am so excited for. Things are going to look a little bit different. Things are going to be changing. Those of you who are behind the glass fans, stay tuned. But yes, for now, it's goodbye. Let's make sure to stay subscribed because I will be back end of January, Seen Through Glass version 5, let's call it, because I feel like every year is a new year, and that will be year 5. So thank you once again. I don't know how to say goodbye. Don't know if I really want to say goodbye. It's such a final thing, but yes, Drive the World is over.